Hello, my friend, and welcome. This is the Back to Me podcast, and I am Heather, and I am super excited that you are here. And I just want to let you know that you're going to hear some tips and some tricks, some ideas, all to help you live your happiest and healthiest life. It is called Back to Me because when you are taking care of yourself, then you can take better care of others. And my goal is to make the world a better place. This is Wellness Your Way. I am really happy that you're here. Your true self is waiting. So it is time to step up and thrive. Hello, my friend. Welcome. I hope you're having an outstanding day. It's a beautiful day. It's January when this is going to air, and I'm sure that it's a beautiful day in January. Come on. It's a brand new shiny year, and we've got tons of time to celebrate and decide what we want to do. And I'm talking today, speaking about deciding what to do and deciding to take care of yourself. Today I'm talking to Butch Phelps on the Back to Me podcast. I like the name, the Muscle Repair Shop, because so many people feel like they're broken, even though I don't feel like they are. But before we jump into the world of muscles, have you always been a muscle repair guy? Is that like that's always been your
Uh,
jam?
this is actually a second career. I was a corporate guy, and if someone would ask me when I was 35 if I was going to be in healthcare, I would have started laughing. And what happened was I had gained a bunch of weight in my 30s, got up to 315 pounds,
Whoa.
and yeah, I was huge. I'm like 6'4", but I was still huge. I was like a wall walking around. Okay, and so I actually ran into a doctor who taught me how to eat and also maintain my weight. And so I started working out like crazy. And then I realized I started to have back pain and so forth. And one thing led to another. And I wound up in massage school. And then I found five mentors. Two were neurosurgeons, a kinesiologist, a physical therapist, and a chiropractor who taught me pieces to the puzzle of the muscles. And it sounds kind of weird because, as one guy said to me yesterday, I thought we knew all about muscles. And the deeper I got into muscles, the more I realized we don't know a whole lot beyond strength training. And so I started on a journey of not only helping myself, but when I saw that it worked for me, I could start showing other people how to do the same thing. And that's how I got here.
Do you know how crazy that is? Because
Yeah.
I was in corporate.
Hmm.
I was a CPA
Oh,
until
wow. Yeah.
until my late 30s. And then I went back to school. I've been teaching yoga now 20 years, and I became a massage
Very,
therapist.
very cool. On the same path. We're on the
I know.
same path. This is great.
I know. So hilarious. And I
Yep.
actually retired from massage. It's true. I had the same mentors. I had ART people.
Yeah.
I had Aldoas. I had, cranial sacral, acupuncture. There's so many ways that we're connected
So
together
many ways. Yeah.
and it's so interesting because it is true when you start to work
Mhm.
out, you can think, I thought I was supposed to feel better,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah.
And even as I think as you get older, it's even more prevalent that people
Hmm.
think, I don't want to do that, it's going to hurt.
Hmm.
So what secret, what is one secret that you've learned that maybe I would love
The
to hear?
biggest secret of them all
What is
is
that?
our muscles are just as emotional as they are physical. And what I
Whoa.
mean by that is when you start to have any chronic ache or pain, let's say it's a low back pain, which is a very common thing. Every time I start to stand up, I'm anticipating it's going to hurt. And when I anticipate that, the brain trying to protect me from the pain contracts the muscle. At the same token, let's say I'm going for a deep tissue massage. I know it's going to hurt when they press on certain spots on my body. When they get close to that spot, what do? I contract those muscles, anticipating the pain. So the poor therapist wears themselves out because they're pushing against a hard contracted muscle, right? The thumbs go out.
My poor thumb
And
right here.
yes, yes. And the person laying on the table, they feel good for the moment because that contraction fatigues the muscle out. But then they say, well, it lasts 2 or 3 hours, maybe a half a day, and don't understand that that's that emotional side of the muscles that we were not really taught about in school. I mean, nobody talked to me about that in school.
No, not at all. I remember I
Yeah.
had one teacher who said he was all very cut it was almost I had another teacher who I think they didn't see eye to eye. I had a teacher
Mhm,
who we called it carpentry. It's like
mhm.
this is attached here and attaches here, and this is the nerve, and this is what it does.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
and it's true because and even on other levels, like as a yoga teacher, it's so common for people when a muscle starts to release, people cry.
yeah, yeah,
And they go, "Why am I crying?" And you think, "Well, it doesn't really matter." Like,
right,
just
right,
let it whatever that is, come out in whatever
exactly
way it
right.
needs to. But it
Mhm,
is super interesting because and I'm sure you've seen this, when you're treating somebody regularly, you're like, "Why is
mhm.
it always tight there?"
Yeah,
No matter how
yeah,
many times I release that muscle, it's always there.
yes, yes, yes,
That makes so much sense.
yeah.
Okay, I'm glad today my mind just blew again. You just blew my mind. Wow. And I guess, like, that could solve so many people's problems, right?
And absolutely. I mean, it's like, when as a massage therapist, we're taught to work on people, people think, well, I come to see Heather once a week, and you come back and then Heather's like, well, why is that muscle still tight again? The difference is, from what I do, is that I literally teach people how to release that emotion in that muscle so that they can do it on a daily basis because it is a daily thing. You think of a dog or a cat, they stretch every day, several times a day. And I always say to my clients, follow your dog or cat. They're telling you it's time to stretch.
Right.
But the cool thing is that when people think of stretching, they think of pulling a muscle as hard as they can and hold for 15, 20, 30, sometimes 60 seconds at a time. The reality is that once you go beyond that 5 or 6 seconds, you're engaging what's called a stretch reflex. And again, the brain thinks, even though it's you, somebody's hurting me. And so the
Right.
brain then contracts the muscle to avoid the pain. And so what most people do in the gym, and I always laugh when I watch them, they're actually strength training, but calling it stretching because they're
Right.
using resistance from one part of their body to try to stretch the other part of their body. So it's an interesting thing, and I don't mean to make it sound like it's easy because most people are not used to doing that. I just had a lady yesterday I was talking to with her neck. And I said to her, we were talking about stretching the front of her neck because the back of her neck hurts. And I said to her, I could see she was having trouble. I said, here's what I want you to do. Just place your chin in the palm of both of your hands. Let your neck go, and you'll feel the weight of your head. Well, I thought this would be fairly easy. This was a 10-minute ordeal because she just couldn't get herself to let go of the backside of her neck. And once I did, she was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And all she
Right.
did was just rest her head in her hands. That was it. So
But
it's,
it's so common though, isn't it?
yes, yes. I would be
Especially I
willing
find especially with the head.
Yeah, I would be willing to bet in my clientele, and I probably see 8 to 10 people a day. In my clientele, I'd be willing to bet that 80% of them could stop 50% of their daily pain if they could just learn to let go
Right.
in their muscles. And that's a major key.
And, I just like it's interesting because the here comes a little bit of woo side. The outside is a reflection of the inside.
Absolutely it is. Yes.
So, if you are tense on the inside of your body, like, you're gonna be tense your muscles are gonna tense just because 'cause you're
Yeah,
mentally tense.
that's right.
'Cause you see it so much, like,
Mhm.
we call it, somebody one of my clients used to call it the Toronto scrunch because in the winter, your shoulders scrunch up because 'cause you're cold, and
Yeah,
it's like you're
yeah,
like, "Oh, this is normal, isn't it?" Walking around with no neck.
yeah,
And you don't
yeah.
notice.
No,
And when people
no.
get tense, they breathe really shallow and
Mhm,
everything is
mhm.
tense, and you don't recognize whew, if you could actually take a full breath, it might help
Yeah,
too, right?
yeah,
Oh my
exactly
goodness.
right.
And
And
I'm
how many
just
people,
you
when they breathe shallow.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And you're reminding me of times teaching yoga where someone is, even just in a forward fold and they're still holding their head up. It's like
yeah.
they think their head is relaxed.
Right, 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 right.
They think it is until you
That's
touch it
exactly
and they
right.
go, "Oh, oh, it's not relaxed." So when you're repairing muscles, I guess you're
Yeah.
teaching people to do what? Just let go?
Okay,
Ah,
perfect.
just let it
So
all go.
So when I'm teaching someone how to help themselves, so number one thing to always remember with muscles is wherever the pain is, the cause is usually the opposite side. And what I mean by that, we've been talking about neck. So if the pain is on the back side of your neck, down between your shoulder blades, 90% of the time, the outside chest muscles are going to be tight. And everybody will work though on the backside because that's where they think they need to go. And so when I'm working with somebody and I'll teach them how to put their body in a position to stretch out that outside chest muscle, for instance, and I do one side at a time, is I remind them that as you hold that for 5 seconds, you're breathing out and just allowing the muscle to let go. We're not pulling taffy, so we're not trying to make it longer. I mean, if we could do that at some point, our muscles would be long enough for a 7 foot guy, you know? But what we're doing is we're releasing the tension. But then we're going to do it, since it's only 5 seconds, 10 times. And the reason for that is that we want the brain to be able to go, oh, we didn't die from that. We can survive. This is fine. So if you think about, if you did splits every day and somebody said, hey, Heather's coming to the party on Saturday, she's going to do a split for us, you would think nothing of it. But if you've never done a split in your life, you would be freaking out. Okay.
I'd be freaking out right now. I have tendonitis in my
Absolutely.
hamstring, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my hamstring would say, hell no.
Yes. Yes.
I have the
So
typical yoga teacher injuries, you know.
yes, yes, I have a few yoga teachers.
I'm
I
sure you
understand.
do.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. It's and that's the thing too with the hamstrings and the calves. They work in hand. And so most people think of like the hamstrings as one muscle, the quads is one muscle, and the thighs one muscle, but they're not. But yeah, when we stretch them as if they're one muscle. So
Right,
when we're stretching and we're trying to do that, your brain is sort of saying to you, which muscle do you want me to let go of, Heather? And
right.
you're like, well, I don't know.
How about all of them?
All of it at the same time. And the brain's like, I can't do that. So
You'd
when
fall
I'm
over.
teaching, yeah, so when I'm teaching people to do those things, I teach them how to shift positionings with their legs, for instance, and how to get each one of those muscles to free that up. Here's a funny thing, like with the calves are the most interesting part of the human body to me. Most golfers will experience, especially as they get older, back pain. And everybody will have the back braces. They'll have the heating strip pads on their back, and they'll go to the doctor, and the doctor X-ray their back, and they go, "Oh, I don't really see anything." Well, my back is killing. I don't really see anything. We'll do X-rays. I don't really see anything. And what I've learned is that the calves is what's causing the back pain. The rotation in the golf swing starts at your feet and your ankles. The
Yeah,
calf muscles, you have four of them, two bones in that lower leg. That rotation has to start, go through the hamstrings, and then into the hips. But when I've taken golf lessons from golf pros, they would say you got to rotate your hips. They never talked about the legs, okay? And so people are trying to increase the power of their swing through their hips and upper torso, and it's causing problems in their low back when they do that. Just little
right.
things like that. So I'm
It
a
is.
muscle nerd. Yeah, I'm a
Yeah,
muscle
you
nerd.
are
I
a
love
total
watching
muscle
people
nerd.
move.
I
Yeah,
think you're more of a
yeah.
muscle nerd than I am. Wow. I thought I was a nerd. But I think it's a
Yeah,
good thing because
yes.
the more you learn about how your physical body works, like
Yeah,
you were talking earlier, what did you say? Grow older without pain.
right. Yeah.
Because even though we walk around going 60 is the new 30 or whatever the latest
Mhm,
is,
mhm, mhm.
physically there's days. So I broke my wrist
Mhm.
almost a year ago. I have a
Wow.
beautiful plate in there
I
now.
see that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's gorgeous. You
Wow.
should
Yeah,
see it. It's beautiful.
yeah.
But afterwards, and this is another thing, people don't give themselves enough grace. So I spent a few couple weeks in a cast, and you can't move it and it's weak.
Mhm,
But I had systemic inflammation from that
mhm,
injury and from the surgery. And getting up and down off the floor for a yoga teacher should be normal, but it suddenly
mhm,
started being, oh,
mhm.
that's not comfortable.
Right.
And I love the fact that you said if you start to anticipate it, then it becomes the truth, because I just thought, like, it's been a year. I'm like, I'm still kind of thinking it's going to hurt. So I'm going to stop
Yeah,
doing that.
yeah.
But for people who, because there's falls, you still want to be
Mhm,
able to do all the fun things that you do. That's a little
mhm.
story about me, but back to you. Um,
That's okay. That's how we learn. That's
this
how
is
we
how we
learn.
learn. But
Yeah.
it's interesting. So, as people have, when I'm teaching yoga, I said your body has had life experiences
Mhm,
and it will tell you the story of those experiences. That doesn't mean you have to tell that old story, but how do
Mhm.
you help them rewrite that story so
Okay,
that
so a
they
couple of
can
things.
Uh-huh.
That's a great question because the way I look at it is that, again, you're right. There are stories in our bodies. And by doing that repetition of that 10 times, again, you're literally showing your brain that this is not going. And
There's a
then
new
once the
story,
brain, right, so once the brain realizes, hey, I can make that movement, it didn't hurt. All of a sudden, you'll see a smile come on their face, and it's like it's gone. And that's a real key to it. And the thing is once you learn how to do it for yourself, you realize that you can change how you feel in a moment. Many times if I'm working my upper body, and let's say my chest is tight for the day or whatever, I've actually stepped through at a doorway and stretched one side of my chest in that doorway, go out and get a client, come in and work on that client, done an hour later. Before I get the second one, I work the other side. And so, what I want people to understand is that you can do this throughout your day. I mean, I'll sit at my car at a stoplight to stretch my neck or work on my forearms, which controls my hands. Okay. And once I can do those things, now my hands don't hurt. I've been doing this for 20 years. My hands don't hurt. My back doesn't hurt. I'll be 65 in March. I'm more flexible now and more pain free now than I was at 40.
right?
And I just do this every day. So I started using me as a guinea pig because I wanted A, to see if it worked. B, I wanted to be able to say to somebody, this is what you should feel, and this is where you should feel that. And if not, then it helps me when I go to help them get to that point.
Right.
Because I don't want to tell anyone to do anything that I haven't done to myself. Because I want to know what that's like.
So, I feel
Mhm.
like the tension is only half of it, right?
Yes.
So, because there is a strength component that you need to be able to support your skeleton. So, when we were talking
Yes.
about backs,
Yes.
so, you know, I the calves, I can totally see that in golfers, them twisting and not using the right momentum. But
Mhm.
what do you think about tell me what your opinion of crunches is.
Crunches. Okay.
Do you know do
That's,
you know the 2
yeah.
physios on YouTube who are like Brad and somebody
Oh,
who
yeah. Brad and Bob.
Brad and
Yeah.
Bob?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right.
I don't think they like crunches.
You know what? The thing about crunches is, and I don't do them. I actually do planks. Um, because and I do like leg lifts, where I'm say hanging in the air and using leg lifts that way. But so when you're looking at crunches, the idea originally, because I did them for years, was that you are able to shift through your obliques and through your upper erector spine, not erector spine, but abdominal muscles, and the lower ones. The thing is you start to use your hip flexors on the front of your hips more than your abs, and the same thing with traditional sit-ups as well. So what I found is when I could do things that literally engage my abs, planks were a good one. And some people will start out and they may only do 5 or 10 seconds at a time. And I say to them, that's your base. Start there. It doesn't
Right.
matter. Start there. And then you can work your way up, or you can hold for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, ever how far you want to go with it. And you start to actually support your spine with that. So you're right about the strength training. Super important because when you look at your spine, when you look between your rib cage and your pelvis, the only bones that are there are your spine. So
Mhm.
the abdominal muscles are very important. And I say to people, when you think about that, it'd be like you and I holding a flagpole that's not stuck into the ground, and there's a flag flying and the wind's blowing. You're on one side, and let's say you're at the back side, and I'm on the front side, and I'm the abdominals. If my abdominals are weak, it would be like me saying to you, hey, Heather, I'm going to go over and sit and have a sandwich. Hold on to this flag. And then I say to my friend, which one of us do you think is going to get tired first? You
Right.
see, and so that abdominal muscle, not only does it support your spine, but it also helps to lift you up so your shoulders won't round in, your head won't go forward. Your head weighs about 10 to 12 pounds. Every inch it goes forward, the pressure between your shoulder blades increases about 10 pounds per inch. So I laugh because I say to people, think of from the shoulders down, you're a pedestal, keeping your head in balance.
Right. Yeah,
And so
I had an
that's where
anatomy
that's
teacher
important.
who called your skull is a bowling ball balanced on 2 chopsticks.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
He
Yeah.
said, "So, make sure that you're balancing your bowling ball because it's too hard to
Yeah.
hold up otherwise." And I
Exactly
think
right.
so I was asking about crunches because nobody likes crunches.
Yeah,
Everybody
yeah,
hates crunches.
yeah,
And I think so many people do them incorrectly that
yeah.
they're not a terrible exercise. They're just
Mhm.
done terribly, you know? I mean, so many people pull on their head and their neck. And interestingly, plank,
Yeah,
people don't like planks either.
right, right.
I saw a meme one day where it said, you know, I did plank every day for 30 days and I discovered I hate planks.
I can see that, yes. I can see that, yeah.
And interestingly, planks are actually quite painful for me.
Yes.
And it is not an abdominal, I don't feel like it's an abdominal
Mhm.
weakness. It's a hip flexor tightness, a hyperflexibility, and a hyperlordosis. So for people who don't know what that is, it doesn't matter. So I do something that I learned from a physio out west, and I call it lying down plank, where
Mhm,
you're on your back and you
mhm,
ensure that your back is supported and in the
mhm,
right position. And then you
mhm,
have your arms and legs and you just take them away from the body to have everybody engage, you know, the abdominals engaged.
mhm, mhm.
And that's how I'm building up to my big, strong self. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
there's so many ways to adapt things. So, because I have clients who say, I hate this. Well, let's
Mhm,
find another way to do it,
mhm,
right?
mhm. Yeah,
Something that will still help you.
right, right.
Because if you hate it, you're not going to do it.
Yeah. Well, the top thing I see with a lot of people, especially when they're having curvatures in their spine and so forth, the positioning of the pelvis. And so when you look at the hip flexors, which is the muscles on the front of the hip joint for people who don't know, there's three of those. And then you got those four quadriceps that goes into the back of the pelvis. Well, if you're in a position where you sit a lot or you're, lifting things a lot, even if you lift it correctly, you're tightening those muscles that pull the pelvis forward, which increases the curvature and the compression into the lower spine. And now to do a plank becomes very difficult because of
Very.
the positioning of the pelvis. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Sitting is the new smoking.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I get a lot of clients who are 70s, 80s, and even 90s. And I always say to them, because you're getting old, don't slow down. You got to speed up. Strength becomes real important because the strength training, and I always look at strength training as the gasoline we put in our car. It gives us power, it gives us stamina, but it also improves the health of our bones. The flexibility, the stretching is more the oil that we put in the engine. That gives us the lubrication in the joints, the disc. It allows us to be able to move with less energy so that we can move longer. So if you think about in a car, there's not a choice. Should I put gas in or should I put oil in? You know that if you leave one
Right.
out, it's going to die. The human body does the same thing.
That's brilliant because I have seen it happen where,
Hmm.
you know, as people get older, they say, "Oh, I can't do this." They do less and less and less.
Hmm.
But by doing less, you are able to do less. So it's like
Hmm.
this downward spiral until you're shuffling with a walker. And I think they
Right,
didn't have to go there, right?
right. That's true.
Um, and if you let yourself, I feel like you can work your way back. It's just
Yes,
it takes not everybody wants to put that work into it.
right. That's exactly right. And this body, I'll laugh to some of my older clients, especially the guys. I'll say, you're like an old Model A that's been in the garage for about 20 years. We got to start you up, get you warmed up again. And that's really
Yes.
what it comes down to. Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah. And my
Have you
young
ever
athletes, I got some young athletes who are going to one of the schools here that actually helps a lot of future professional athletes, get there. And I said to them, think of your body like a Ferrari. You're 15, 16 years old. You're an elite athlete. Don't put garbage in your gas tank. If your dad gave
right,
you a Ferrari, you wouldn't go to the gas pump and pour water in it. You put premium fuel in that car.
right.
You are a Ferrari. Put premium fuel in that car.
That's awesome. Yeah. Hmm. As I Okay, I have the thing for chocolate. My
I
friends know
understand.
that.
I love chocolate myself. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
I'm just not gonna have, you know, I'm not gonna feed myself solely with chocolate.
That's
I
true.
promise, right?
Yeah,
I solely promise not to
yeah,
eat only chocolate.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I mean, when I was, because I ran marathons for a little
Mhm.
while, I this was actually, I was running marathons before I went into wellness. Well, I was still an accountant,
Mhm.
if you can believe it. I was
Okay. Yeah.
sitting like 14 hours a day, and then, hey,
Yeah.
let's go run a marathon. And to get myself across the finish line, I had chiropractors, massage therapists. I had a
Mhm.
guy who did ART, a guy who did
Mhm.
MAT. I don't know if you those are active
Mhm.
release technique and muscle activation technique,
Mhm.
just to get me across the finish line.
Yeah.
And when I think about it now, I was not helping myself
Mhm.
because nothing, everything was band-aids
Mhm.
rather than fixing what was actually wrong.
Mhm.
And I think I like the solution that you're presenting because it's not just a fix. Like,
Right.
I'm not saying people shouldn't go to these people. And I also
Mhm.
discovered, because I had an acupuncturist as well, an
Mhm.
osteopath. Oh my gosh, I had so many people.
Mhm.
I found that each therapy would, it's like you were saying, each of them had
Mhm.
a piece of it. And I would say, okay, today this is wrong. I need acupuncture. Today this
Mhm.
is wrong. I need to go for chiro. Today this is wrong.
Mhm.
But and they would put it back into place, but it never
Mhm.
stayed. You know,
Right.
it never stayed. So it's like I feel like the solutions, and people like them things to be complicated for some reason.
Yeah.
But I think it's like your solution, what you're saying sounds like it's easy
Mhm. It is.
ish,
Yeah.
easy ish,
Yep.
easy to understand anyway,
Yeah.
and will give you the results so that you don't have to have a Rolodex full. Do people remember what a Rolodex is? A
Probably not.
Rolodex,
Probably not. Yeah. Yeah.
your phone contact list full of therapists to
Yeah.
take care of you.
Yeah.
So, have you found that there's people who just say, "Oh my God, I'm cured," and they just go on with it? Besides yourself,
You do get a few people, not many. Most of them go through the same thing you went through. I always say to my colleagues who are chiropractors and acupuncturists, massage therapists, PTs, and even orthopedists and neurologists, I don't I don't I don't do all the fixings that they do. I just make the fixings better. And
right?
and to explain to what I'm talking about is when I'm working with chiropractors, for instance, they will see that a bone is out of place and they'll put it back in place. So the thing is that they're bone people.
They
And
are.
so when they do that and they put you back in place, you feel good for the moment. The problem is when you walk back outside, your brain is going, something doesn't feel quite right. Let's move it back the way it was. And
Exactly.
so that's what happens, you see. And I had a chiropractor one time, he and I were talking about it. And he said, I got this lady, her neck has been out. And he said, I've been working on it for like 3 months. He said, every time she comes in on Monday, it's right back out again. I said, let's do this. Let me work on her for an hour. You adjust her, take an x ray the first day she comes in. Let's do Monday, Wednesday, Friday next week. And then when she comes back the following Monday, take an x ray and see where she is. When she came back the following Monday, she was still in place. So the thing to think about, people talk about what's normal. Whatever you feel like today, and I don't care if you're as hard as concrete, if that's how you felt for years, to you, that's normal.
Right.
What we're doing is creating a new normal for you to understand how you're supposed to feel. And so even from a doctor's standpoint, you don't have the training to about muscles much more beyond what's the name of the muscle, where do they attach, where do they insert, what do they move? Okay. We need to go deeper than that so that physicians and other therapists can look at it and say, look, acupuncture is a great thing, chiropractor is a great thing, but there's more to the story. And
Yeah.
I think that what's happening, we're missing the whole story.
And I think that people want, I had a lady come in once who was like concrete, and she wanted
Mm-hmm.
to know if there was just a pill for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if you're been in the garage for 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
can't just open the door and be in a
Right.
road race, you know?
Right.
So the normal that you're used to will take time
Mm-hmm.
to create your new normal, but
Mm-hmm.
it's worth it, you
Yes.
know? It's so
Yeah.
worth it to have a new normal
Yeah.
because I think people get into a weird headspace where they think that it's normal to be in pain
Yeah.
all
They
the
expect
time.
it.
Yeah.
A funny story. When I was getting ready to turn 50, I was 49, and most of my friends were older than I, and they kept saying, "Oh, you wait till you turn 50. You're going to have all kinds of pain." And I'm like, well, should I like just commit suicide before 50? Just not have to deal with it? It sounds pretty terrible to me,
I
you know.
know.
And so my 50th birthday came around, we had a party, and I'm like, all right, I don't feel any pain. You just wait, it's gonna come. You wait till you're 55. And so we did the same thing at 50. Wait till you're 60. We did it at 60. And I said, wait a minute, are you guys just waiting for the pain to show up? What are you doing?
Well, what's interesting, because I talk about this with people who are trying to make change in their lives,
Yeah.
is people want you to join their club. So
Yes.
it's like, oh, you just wait. It's like they
Mhm.
have, if you're not in pain, that means they don't have an excuse.
Exactly. Exactly.
Some people don't
That's
like that.
exactly. They don't like that.
Some people don't like that. Now
Yeah.
you have a book, right?
I do. It's called the Stretch and Release. It's on Amazon right now, and it's literally a manual of what I've been talking about. I dive some into nutrition, but I'm using my background on what I did not only to lose 130 pounds, but also how to maintain it for over 20 years. I talk about typical treatments that people deal with back pain and so forth, and why it only works temporarily, just like what we talked about with the chiropractor,
Right.
because it's important that people understand that when you go there, it's like a band-aid for the moment, and you keep going back, but you don't really have any control of what's going on with your life. And then the back half of the book, I get into specific things about the calves and the feet, and what can you do to be able to fix that, shoulders and neck and so forth. And then I have a QR code where you can actually go to my YouTube channel, follow videos that help out with the book, so you can actually see what I'm talking about. Oh
Oh
yeah,
my God.
yeah, yeah. So when somebody comes to see me here in person, whatever stretches I teach them, I send them home with the videos that they can follow. And I did the videos with like two cameras so that they could get different angles as I'm talking about it. Because the key to this whole thing is what you do when you go home.
Right. It is.
Yeah,
So true. It's not what you do for like the half an hour or an hour that
yeah,
you're
yeah,
with your therapist. It's
yeah,
what you do all the other days and all the other
yeah.
times.
I had a
S-
gentleman, he was in his early 80s one time, and he said, I came here just one time. And he said, I figured you were going to fix me. And I laughed. And I said, really? He goes, oh, yeah. And I said, oh, you're looking for Jesus. He's two doors down the hall.
Right. That's awesome. Oh
And
my
he laughed and he
goodness.
said, well, I guess you're right. And he said, all right, I guess I have to do this work.
You got to do it. Sorry, friends. You got to do it.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always have people is like, take responsibility for yourself,
Yeah.
put on your
Yeah.
grown up outfit and
Yeah.
get and do this things for yourself because no one else can do it for you, right? It's like
Exactly right.
asking somebody to go to the bathroom for you. Can you go to the
Yeah.
bathroom for me? No.
That's exactly right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like, you go in and you're looking for someone to make your muscles release. If they don't know your emotional state, I mean, number one, even if they did, they can't do it until they get you to release that,
Yeah,
you know? I mean, I
exactly.
wish I could touch people and just heal them. That'd be an awesome thing to have.
You would be
But
Jesus.
I would be Jesus at that point, but I just don't have that power. I can tell you how to get there, but you got to do the work.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Um, I wrote down the name of the book. Don't worry, friends. It's going to be in the show notes, and I'll even put a link in there for it because
Thank you.
I hate looking for things.
Yes.
I just wanted to.
Yes.
I like convenience where I can have it because I
Yeah.
am taking care of this body.
Yeah.
Um, and your website,
My
people can
website
find you.
is musclerepairshop.com. You can go
Beautiful.
on the website and you can actually sign up for my weekly newsletter. It comes out every Tuesday afternoon tips. I dive into specific ailments that people have, and then I always have 3 videos in there that coincide with what I'm talking about to help them alleviate those problems. I think
Amazing.
what was interesting with the videos, I kept thinking, how could I do this with a video that somebody could actually help? And I've got about 150 videos on my YouTube channel. What is amazing is I hear from people all over the world who's like, I've been suffering with this for 2 or 3 months. I watched your videos. In a week's time, I'm like 60% better. And
Right?
I'm like, really? Off of a video? I was shocked.
Hey, man. Sometimes all we need is instructions, right?
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
We
It's a
don't know
beautiful
what we
thing.
don't know.
Exactly right. Exactly.
So I'm going to make sure that everybody can connect with you in some
Thank you.
way, shape, or form. Find you in those
Yes.
show notes.
Yes.
Um, but before we head off,
Mhm.
I always give my guests the final word of wisdom.
Yes.
So what have you got for us? You can
All
have more
right.
than one word.
More than one word. Okay. Final words of wisdom. Learn to let go. And when you think of your muscles, think of them from an emotional side, not just from a physical side. And learn that just because your muscles are tight doesn't mean you physically did something wrong. It could be something you're holding on from a past in your life.
Amazing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Maybe
it
even from
is.
a past life.
Exactly
Oh
right.
my
Yes,
God, can you
yes,
imagine? Oh,
yes, yeah.
okay. Friends, you heard it here. You don't have to carry those burdens around. Take care, my friends. Share
You
this
too.
with someone who that you know complains a lot about being in pain, moans and groans like an old person getting up and down. Somebody in the next room is going to listen to this later. And for sure, subscribe, comment, like, all of the good things. And check out this book, The Stretch and Release by Butch Phelps. Thank you, my friends. Have an amazing day. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Hello, my friend. I hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you found it useful and you're like me and you want to help others, please share this, comment, like, subscribe, all of those things that will help this podcast to be found by more people. And if you found it useful, there's a chance that someone else will find it useful as well. If you ever have any questions, I am here to answer your questions. I would love to help you. My direct email address is info@heatherstewart.coach. You can also find me at heatherstewart.coach. And if you go over to my website, you will find copies of the podcast. You'll find the link to my Instagram and my Facebook. And I do have a personal request because I do want to help as many people as I can with these podcasts. So if you could give me a review, and my friend, I would love if you gave me a good one. If you could share this, if you could send it out into the world, I would truly appreciate it. I hope that you have an amazing day. I hope that you are finding your way back to wellness by getting back to me. Take care, my friend. Be well, and we will see you again next time.